beer in the tri-state Pesach. The Chaf K and the OU and the Sachtas Rabbanim of Satmar said you can't drink any beer till Shavuos, approximately Shavuos time, in the tri-state area. While the OK said it's valid, it's kosher. So what happened here? So this is exactly our discussion. They discover that the main distributor of beer in the tri-state area is a Jew. Just discovered it. He's been doing this for 30 years, or not about 30 years, 40 years. No, 40 years, and they had just discovered it. So it ends up all the beer that they've been drinking after Pesach was chametz.
You didn't say his beer?
He's not from. The owner of the distributing company is not a from guy.
But you'd still do it.
He didn't do Mechiras Chametz.
They don't know.
No. Why would he do it?
Well, I thought everybody knew.
No, not maybe in South Africa the situation's a little different, but in America, unfortunately, they barely know you can't marry a Gentile, let alone to know that you have to sell your chametz for Pesach.
But it sounds like not have known he was Jewish.
No, he knew he was Jewish. He had a bar mitzvah. But on tefillin, this is something new. We know the situation in the United States is 80% intermarriage rates in the Reform community. The Reform community is the largest Jewish community in the U.S., and they have an 80% intermarriage rate. 80%. Okay, the 60% is global, all U.S. Jewry, but in Reform it's 80%.
But there's not many reforms so much now.
That's why they're declining.
They're
They're declining tremendously. In any event, the point is that people don't know, people don't care, people don't know. They just discovered that he was Jewish, and now what do you do? So some Rabbanim said there's nothing to do because there's no way on earth this distributor will agree to shut down his business for 8 days. I mean, he owns the market. It's a monopoly. There's almost no one else in New York. In order to sell beer, distributor, you have to have a license. You can't just say, oh, so this guy's out for 8 days. I'll now start selling. No. You have to have a license, which takes time to get from the state of New York to be able to sell alcohol. This was since the Prohibition era in 29. So even though we can now drink alcohol because it was revoked, but certain aspects of that decree were not revoked, and you need to have a special license to be able to produce and market alcohol. So because of this, basically, forget about a competitor. New Yorkers wouldn't be drinking beer for 8 days. Now, that's pretty bad. Okay.
Pretty good. Yeah.
If they don't get their fix, So it's a very serious situation. People can be breaking down his business, breaking in to get to the beer, so eluding the place. So bottom line is that there was no chance on earth he would agree to stop his business. So these Rabbanim said, we follow the psak, that if you don't stop the business, you can't do the sale. So there's nothing to do. You can't drink the beer. The OK, however, went ahead and did a sale based on Rav Moshe Feinstein's heter. And so therefore, this is the source of that controversy. So some held of the sale and some didn't. And this is also this year. This is going to be for every year until this company goes into non-Jewish hands, if it does. But so long as it stays in Jewish hands, this is going to be a yearly annual controversy. So if someone tells you in 20 years from now, oh, I heard of this, and you say, well, this is old. This is already 20 years old, this controversy. Some eat, some drink it, some don't. Some rely on it, some don't. Okay, this is the beer controversy regarding that, and that is the understanding behind it.
Can I just make an announcement?
Okay.
That at 4:00 today at my home we're doing a Rosh Chodesh and everyone is invited.
Okay.
No washing laundry, any of that.
No. Any other chores we don't have to do? So.
Okay, we're going to continue with a few more. Any questions on the chametz? We're gonna finish our chametz discussion. No questions? Okay, good. Okay, as we know, a few more quick minhagim that apply after Pesach. As we know, we start reciting Pirkei Avos. This year in Eretz Yisrael, we could have started it on Shabbos, the past Shabbos, but practically, even those who did, we started saying Perek Aleph again this week. So this week. Huh?
I want to ask a question because you were remember that you were talking about the
Chametz?
No, but you were talking about earlier about the Perek Tehillim. It's really quick. The one that you say that a year after. Remember that?
Yeah.
So can I do that on my English birthday, or do I have to wait till my Hebrew birthday?
Hebrew birthday.
Oh, so I don't do it on my English birthday. I don't say, okay, fine.
Only Hebrew
She
birthday.
said on Rosh
Only
Chodesh.
Hebrew birthday.
No,
Yeah,
you know
every
how
Rosh
the Rebbe
Chodesh.
said you're supposed to say every day your
Nothing
parents.
to do with Rosh Chodesh.
No,
No,
sorry. Sorry.
Okay. We said on Rosh Chodesh you're supposed to learn your Perek of Tehillim with Pirush Rashi.
You did say it with Pastor.
Yeah. Okay, so
Oh.
this minhag of saying Pirkei Avos is an old custom. It's written in the Ramah and Rishonim, and the purpose of it is to prepare for Matan Torah. As we're saying, Sfiras Ha'omer, we're refining our midas. So as well, we go ahead and we say Pirkei Avos to assist in doing so.
Is that in our sitter?
That is the source of the custom of saying Pirkei
It
Avos.
is?
We have an interesting dilemma this year, which is we had in other years as well, but not as severe, which is that we are not aligned in Parshias with the diaspora. And this situation of disalignment will continue for about another 10 weeks until Matis Maseh. Parshas Matis Maseh, then we split it while they say it together. When we do Maseh, they're doing Matis Maseh, and then we're all united once again. And until that time, we're going to be split. And therefore, a traveler who's going from here to there, there to here, is entering into some kind of issue, because he's either losing a parsha or getting a parsha twice. So it's a parsha that he likes, and it's fine. If he doesn't like so much, you have to hear it again. And when he comes back, he's then going to lose one, right? So he's going to gain. He's going to have a repetition of a parsha. When he returns, he's going to have a loss of a parsha. So. Bottom line, nonetheless, it's still mutter to travel. There is no ban on traveling during this disalignment period, especially for women who are not chayiv in Kriyas HaTorah, so there's no obligation on them regardless. It's just regarding chita. So if, let's say, you're flying in the middle of the week, so you would start as soon as you enter the airspace of the diaspora, you change your chitas to their parsha, and when you return back to the airspace of Eretz Yisrael, you then change your chitas to Eretz Yisrael. But for men, it's a problem because they have to hear Kriyas HaTorah. But nonetheless, the Chiyuv of Kriyas HaTorah is on the community. It's not on an individual. So therefore, if he can't hear it because he's in the diaspora, then he's patur, he's exempt. What a lot of people would do during this time is that they would make a special minyan of Chutz La'aretz or Eretz Yisrael every Shabbos. So now we have a big issue. This week and last week, all the yeshiva students coming back to Eretz Yisrael. So they're a week behind. So they're going to be making their own minyanim until Matis Maseh. Their own Chutz La'aretz minyan until Matis Maseh. It could be some of them will do that, but they have enough people to not need to do that. And, yeshivas that are from the whole yeshiva is basically people from Chutz La'aretz. So they don't need to resort to doing that. Let's say an individual who's part of an Israeli communities, and he comes, so they're not going to change the whole parsha because of him. But what they can do is that by Kaihen, they can read from the previous parsha and read the whole parsha in one aliyah, and then get to the next parsha. It's a hard sell. Most people won't agree, read the whole previous parsha for the tzibur. That's a little tough, but it's technically possible to do. They say of Rav Lando, Moshe Leib, who passed away recently, of Bnei Brak, that 1 year like this, he traveled with a group of sheikhtim for his ashkacha to do shchita in Uruguay. No, in Argentina. Not Buenos Aires, a different city. And basically, his minyan was the minyan, and they were planning on reading the Parsha of Eretz Yisrael, which was Chutz La'aretz was still doing last week's. And so one of the boys who, he was son of the Shliach, Chabad Shliach there, he was, when he heard them starting to read, that they were going to read, wrong Parsha, he took it so much to heart, he started crying. We're going to read the wrong Parsha. So that Moshe Yehuda Leib said that we should read their Parsha, and that's it. So they read Chutz La'aretz's Parsha again. Okay. This past Shabbos, some or many follow the custom of making the Shlisel Challah, the Ki Challah. Some do it, some don't do it. Different reasons are given behind the custom. But the point is that not everyone has to do it. You don't have to adapt the custom. And on the other hand, there's nothing wrong with doing it. There's no issue with doing it. Those who have the family maser of doing it obviously should continue like every minhag Yisrael. what we publicized on Thursday on this issue was that to negate the irresponsible voice of some who say that it's a Christian minhag to go ahead and make kichalas.
Do Christians even make challah?
So those who haven't heard of it, good. Those who have, so they got confused. You know, we are very careful not to do anything of the Goyim. We stay away from looking at a church, let alone doing a practice of the church. So what this individual did is he sketched similarities of the baking of the kichala to baking of bread crossbreads that the Christians would do. But so I explained. This is you can look at in the article of Thursday's Daily Halacha, where we explain that there's nothing to worry about. That in truth, you need to have a certain criteria that is met in order to prohibit an action due to it being the ways of the Goyim. It's not just enough to do a 101 on history and start sketching similarities to other cultures of what they did. That's not enough of evidence to be able to then ask or something. What I do find interesting is that's one point. Another point is that bichlal, that someone would come along and shoot or poke a hole or speak against a Jewish custom that's been around for generations. He's never in good waters when he does that. He's going to get himself into a lot of trouble. Even Rav Ovadia Yosef, who we all know was a tremendous Torah scholar, got into deep waters when he spoke against Minhagim of Spartan, let alone someone who's not very well known for his scholarship for very obvious reasons. When he goes out and he tries to publicize something as a prohibition because he feels it has Christian connotation, to scholars, he's making a complete fool out of himself. Maybe he gets to confuse a few people, but he's making a complete fool out of himself, especially that, Minig Yisrael Torah, we defend and we explain, and we are not quick to throw them off because you found some kind of similarity. What I found interesting in this case, without going into names, is that there are people who actually suggest that the author of who wrote this whole thing, he himself is a secret missionary. So, as it says in Chazal, Kol haPaisel b'mumay paisel, one who invalidates with his own blemish. Now, I don't know if that's true. I did hear it from some reliable people that have very serious suspicions about him. But nonetheless, the point is that we aren't so quick to disregard a minhag Yisrael. Even if it's not your minhag, doesn't mean that we have to try to negate it. Okay, we're going to begin discussing Sfiras Ha'omer. So the mitzvah Sfiras Ha'omer that we keep now until Shavuos, there's a number of reasons behind the mitzvah that are recorded, but the main idea and common denominator of all the reasons is that through counting Sfira, that is how we are. It's a great book, by the way. I'll show
You want a page?
Huh?
You want a page?
The page? Well, we're doing the summary, so you can just open up to the summary. The purpose of the counting of the Omer is to refine our animal souls for the receiving of the Torah. It's explained as follows. The holiday of Pesach was a diet for the godly soul. It was to rejuvenate our godly soul, get our godly soul back in action. However, the Yetzer Hara, the animal soul, he may have been forced to diet, but he didn't like it at all. He did not like the diet at all, and now he wants to be right back at his ways, right after Pesach. So how do we penetrate him with some, how do we get him to calm down, to be more refined? That's through the period of between Pesach and Shavuos. That's the period of Sfira. And through counting the Omer, which the Omer was a sacrifice, an offering that was brought, not an animal offering, a plant offering, that was brought in the temple, on the Mizbeach, on the 16th of Nisan. It was made of barley. There's no other precedent of a barley offering in the temple. This was the only time. It was always wheat. And the reason is because wheat is considered a human food. Barley is considered an animal food. And till today, this is the case. 90% of barley production goes to feeding animals today, while wheat, it goes to feeding humans. So wheat represents a human food, barley represents an animal food, and it's perfect for refining the animal within. That's why we brought an omer of sa'irim, of barley sacrifice, as it represents the refining of the animal. By us counting Sfiras omer with our mere words and voice of a Jew, we have ability to refine it little by little. Now, even though it sounds like, how can a mere daily statement of counting a number have any effect on my animal soul? The truth is, a Jew's voice and a Jew's sound itself is holy and has the ability of changing things, has the ability of refining things. We find this in this past week's Parsha, Parshas Kadeshim, which is this week's Parsha in Chutz La'aretz, in which we learn a severe prohibition against cursing a Jew, Leisakal Cheresh. You can say, what's the big deal? I'm just saying some words. I didn't do anything. I just said some words. That's all I did. May your business fail. That's all I said. You like it, you don't like it. I didn't do any damage. Take me to court. Take me to court for saying that I made your business fail. You lose. However, the Torah gave a biblical prohibition against doing so, not just because it's not a nice thing to do, but because words have effect. There is a malach in charge of taking our words and going upstairs and doing things about it. And that's why we have to be very careful, chas v'shalom, never to curse any Jew. People
Take
think
it back
cursing,
right away?
huh?
Could we take it back right away if we do?
You have to get that malach back. It's not so simple.
Why?
Can't take it.
Why? Because you've already created a malach who's on a mess.
Yeah, but then what's the whole Indian of tshuva? We can do.
I'll give you an example. You ever sent something to someone and then regret it? Try catching the guy, the messenger of UPS, and stopping him.
Okay.
Not so
On
simple.
your
But it's
computer.
possible because
On
you
your
make it seem like there's
Have
no
you tried?
hope. Like
UPS isn't
Yes.
so great.
people do
They'll send
mistakes
it
and
anyway.
say things that they don't mean.
So
and-
that's okay. So you have to do tshuva. That's why we have tshuva. We're not saying there's no such thing as tshuva, but damage is done. Person says lashon hara about someone.
Yeah.
Can you do tshuva? Yeah, it's possible, but it's hard. It's not so because you have to stop the damage. Cursing doesn't just mean to use not nice words, profane language, right? People think, what is it, curse? You can't curse someone, don't call them, a profane term. No. That's baby cursing. That's cursing, and that's a borrowed term of cursing.
But
Cursing
we're not
is when
supposed to be
let me
down.
finish.
Okay.
Cursing is when a Jew says words of negative, of professing a negative activity to occur to someone else, to occur to another Jew. That's the issur of cursing. So if you don't like, someone really bothered you, someone really annoyed you, someone really got on your nerves, to say, I wish this and this would happen to him. So close. It's not there. It's not there to say such a thing. Or to say, I wish his judgment would go to God and God would do this and this. That's also a klala. A Jew has to use his mouth to speak positive, not negative. We mentioned in previous classes how the Rebbe was very particular in this and told people not even to quote punishments of Chazal, that Chazal mentioned as an actual, professing that this will occur to you. There obviously there were groups of Jewry who did that. That was the Shita of Moser. We're not saying it didn't exist, but as Chassidim, we completely avoid even that, and certainly to avoid saying things of your own. It's an issur not to curse, and the reason is because Bris Kusalas Vasayim, there was a covenant, a pact that was made with words. But if this is regarding negativity, certainly regarding positivity, that our words also have effect in refining us. Now let's get to the question regarding: are women obligated to count Sfiras Omer? Do women have to count? So for all the details, you can look in the Day of last week where we discussed this in length. And the summary is as follows. There is a dispute in the Rishonim if women are obligated or not. And the reason behind the dispute is based on a dispute of how to view this mitzvah. Is it a time-dependent mitzvah or is it an action-dependent mitzvah? We've discussed in this class in the beginning when we went through the general rules of mitzvahs applicable to women, and those they're exempt from, that while they're obligated in all mitzvahs, they are exempt from all mitzvahs that are time-dependent. Now, sometimes you have mitzvahs which are tricky because they have relation to time, but they also have relation to action. For example, we all agree women are chayav in the mitzvah of mezuzah. But you can try to argue and say, well, since you're only chayiv in mezuzah when you buy a house, and buying a house is dependent on time, you bought it today, not yesterday, so it has a relationship with time. When I moved into it, that's when I became chayiv. So maybe it's a time dependent. But the answer is no. That is a action dependent mitzvah that happens to use time, but it's not independent mitzvah. It's dependent on you owning the home. Therefore, women are biblically obligated to put a mezuzah in their homes just like men. With the Sfiras HaOmer, it's not as simple. Sfiras HaOmer, on the one hand, you can say we start the 16th, so it's a time-dependent mitzvah. On the other hand, we start due to the sacrifice, the Omer sacrifice. We're talking in biblical times and temple times. So maybe it's an action-dependent mitzvah similar to buying a home. It happens to be you can only offer this on the 16th, but it's not the 16th that's starting the count. It's the Omer that's starting the count. And that's similar to buying a home on the 16th, and then you have to put up a mezuzah. So this is the debate in the Rishonim, and practically the way we rule the Achrayim, the Alter Rebbe, the Shulchan Aruch, and others, is that women are exempt. We view it as a time-dependent command, not as an Omer-dependent command. However, nonetheless, you should have seen this coming. Women are to count sfira. And let's explain. There's a few different approaches here. For Sephardim, especially those who follow Kabbalah, they specifically don't count sfira because they say A, women are exempt, B, based on Kabbalah, they're not supposed to. So they don't count sfira. Not all Sephardim, but many. Many Sephardi women don't count sfira. Number two, even those Sephardi women who want to count sfira, they can't count with a bracha. That is their custom. We've already discussed in Lent in previous classes how the big debate amongst Sephardim if they can say a bracha on mitzvahs that they are exempt from. Since we rule they're exempt, so according to many Sephardi poskim, they cannot say the bracha. But aside from that, we said before that they have a minhag not to say a bracha of Sfiras HaOmer. So that's clear. All Sephardi women, whether they're saying sfira or not saying sfira, they don't say a bracha. Regarding Ashkenazim. So regarding Ashkenazim, the Magen Avraham, the Alter Rebbe rule in the Shulchan Aruch, that many communities have accepted upon themselves as saying a sfira as an obligation. There's three mitzvahs that women are exempt from because they're time-bound that they have accepted as an obligation, therefore they must do. One of them is shofar, the second one is lulav, and the third is Sfiras HaOmer. So because of this, so because of this, since women have accepted it as a chayiv, so therefore you're right from the technicalities of the laws of time-dependent commands, we practically arbitrate they're exempt, but they accepted it. We all agree that you're exempt from, drinking a cup of water. If I don't want to drink this cup of water, I don't have to. But if I make a vow that I will drink this cup of water, then I have to because of my vow. So if a custom of accepting a mitzvah has already occurred throughout the generations, then all those descendants must keep that custom due to the vow. So practically, Ashkenazi women do count sfira. Now the question is, do they count with a bracha? And the answer is that many don't and many do. Many don't count with a bracha because they say there's a chance you may miss one of the future nights. Women aren't davening Marav with the minyan. There's, things are going on. It's much more common to forget, and then you'll miss a whole day and you won't be able to count anymore. And some say if you missed a day, the whole mitzvah was gone. So therefore, they to begin with don't count with a bracha. It's called assuming for the worst, preparing for the worst. However, according to Chabad Shita, women do count with a bracha, and we don't worry you may miss a day, because even if you do, it doesn't invalidate the good you already accomplished. It doesn't invalidate anything retroactively. So in the future, if you miss the whole day, you won't count sfira anymore. You won't say bracha anymore. So to summarize, Sephardim, some don't count, some count without a blessing. Ashkenazim count, some count with a blessing, some count without a blessing. Obviously, those who count with a blessing must follow the same laws as men, which we're going to go through. If they missed a day, they can't count anymore, etc. All those follow the same laws. Now, there's an additional reason that the Alter Rebbe writes why women are to count every single day, and that is, aside for the ideas we've already mentioned of accepting it as a custom, etc. There is a prohibition of doing malacha until you count sfira. Just like on Rosh Chodesh, women don't do malacha. So in general, for men and women, there's a prohibition of doing malacha until you count sfira. So it has nothing to do with whether you're chayiv in sfira or not chayiv in sfira. You can't do malacha until you do. You don't want to count sfira, you're not chayiv, but you can't do malacha until you do. Work, like laundry, sewing.
Making dinner.
But I heard your husband, if he counts for you because you're one, then you're.
No,
But-
sorry. You have to count yourself.
From what time are you talking about? I mean,
Sunset.
sunset.
So from sunset until Tzeitzei Kechav, until you count, you shouldn't be doing laundry. It's less, about 20 minutes here in Israel. Okay? But you have to count. If you don't, that's the whole point. That's what I was saying, that those women who don't count because they're exempt, they have a problem that then they can't do malacha. So in order to avoid all this, this is basically just explaining all the reasons of why women should count in order to avoid these issues. So even if you missed, even right now, this is going to be your first night counting tonight, you should still count. Don't look back and say, well, I didn't count all these days. I've never done this mitzvah before.
What's tonight's count?
I can't say yes.
What was yesterday's
I-
count?
I could say what tonight counts is. You only have to avoid saying tonight's count if it's past Plag HaMincha, and we are still in the morning. We're not past Plag HaMincha. Tonight's count should be 16.
16.
Okay.
And I can start today. Or tonight.
Well, you can even start today. Whoever didn't say it,
Oh, I
you
can
can
say
say
15.
Hayayim, Chamish, Asa Yayim Laim.
Okay.
Okay. Without a blessing. The same as Rish Chodesh. You don't do laundry. You don't do it brought down. You shouldn't do any malacha that takes your mind off, because there's a few reasons behind this. Or some say it actually has nothing to do with Sfiras HaOmer. It has to do with the other aspect. Sfiras HaOmer has two aspects. One is counting Sfira. The second is the mourning customs. They're two different chapters in Shulchan Aruch, but they're the same period. So one of the reasons is that we're mourning. The sages establish a mourning time for the students of Rabbi Akiva, where we mourn like during Shiva. We don't do malacha until we count Sfira. So, and that's applicable to man and woman, and it's nothing to do with there's a few reasons brought down. That's one of them. But so some write that any malacha that takes time. Let's say you're a person who gets really into your cooking and you push it enter into a different world when you're cooking, and then you shouldn't cook until you say Sfira. But if it's just making macaroni and cheese, something very simple where you're not investing much mind and energy, then it's okay.
Just from me. Okay.
It's from Shkia time,
Yeah, sorry.
from sunset time. The best thing is to count immediately at night, then you get all the issues out of the way. So as soon as it says Kechavim, you can count right away. And let's say it's past Shkia and you have to do laundry. Malasot, you're going to have to wait until it says Kechavim. You can say it after Shkia. It's also fine. You can count after Shkia, not with a bracha. Don't count with a bracha, but you can count after Shkia, and then you can continue doing the laundry. Okay, we're just going to conclude. I know we're to reach overtime with a few small points. While we count, it is an obligation to stand. So we count standing, which also negates leaning. Okay, we don't lean when we count. Whenever you're required to stand, you can't lean as well. In the count itself, if you're following what it says in the siddur, you're reading exactly word for word, it's not a problem. But if you're saying by heart, you have to remember to always say the word hayayim. That's a very important and integral part of the count. The person just says 16th day of the Aimer tonight. He wasn't Yaitse. What's 16th? What? When? Yesterday, today, tomorrow.
Do we
You
say
have to
Rabbeinu
say
Shalom?
literally. Yeah, that's an addition. The main mitzvah is the actual count itself.
Okay.
Okay, not to get confused. That is the mitzvah itself. Everything else is just the cream on top. But the mitzvah itself is hayayim and counting the day and saying the word hayayim. That's why also technically if someone asks you tonight, what day is it? You can tell them the 16th without saying today is the 16th. And you weren't Yaitse because you didn't say today. But nonetheless, the best thing is not to get involved. Just say yesterday. It's best to say last night's. But, if you didn't say last night's and you said today's, but you didn't say the word today is, it's still okay.
So basically, you're just saying one sentence.
That's correct.
That's easy. I don't have to even need my sitter for that.
That is true. It is quite easy.
It's quite true.
Yeah. And it also makes no difference what language you say it in, so long as you know what you're saying. So if you understand what you're reading in Hebrew, it's good. If you don't understand what you're reading in Hebrew, then say it in whatever language you know, because the main thing is to understand and know that you are counting, and not to say some Hebrew words. Okay, we're going to conclude here for today, and I know there's still a little bit of halachas left. We'll cover that next week, Mirza Hashem, and get.
Sorry, I know you said you just say like Hayom Yom Hamesh Lomer. I'm done. That's it. No, I don't have to say like the thing underneath Harachaman who.
It's a nice thing to say. If you're asking me, do